right, what is up, boys? Welcome to another Ask Diaphone. So this is a series. Every week we answer your questions in Discord, and I appreciate you guys so much for the content. We have again a bunch of questions, so I appreciate y'all stopping by. So let's get right into it. Controller dilemma by Placket. Hey, when playing on pad, is it best to only use the arrows and disregard the analog? I find it easier to use analog and quarter circles. Yeah, I get this question so much. I don't understand. It's actually preference. So I personally use the Dpad, right? But a lot of people use the analog stick, right? I think the D-pad in general is way more common. You get a lot more precision, but there have been top level players who have used the analog stick. I think Ending Walker is probably the perfect example. I think he plays on Xbox 360 pad with the analog stick. I know Wolfcrone back in the Street Fighter 4 days used to do that. My opinion on controllers is like, it doesn't really matter too much because there's so much other more important shit than, you know, what your input method is, right? It's kind of a reason Xiao Hai can beat people one-handed in King of Fighters. He's just that good, right? So to me, I always think of like the controller debate is like at high level, it's like a, you know, 2% buff, 3% buff, because I do think leverless is the strongest, and I think pad's pretty close behind. Actually, I think pad would be very strong, but the arrows on very mainstream controllers fucking suck. Anyways, yeah, next question. Simple Heave, welcome to Discord. Hey, Diaphone, I was hoping I'd be able to help me with an issue that's been hindering my ability to play fighting games properly and improve. Tried many years. I play Charlotta. Okay, dope. Yeah, Charlotta is pretty cool. Variable situation. I feel like the situation is checkmate situation for me, and the opponent is one-size approach. Give you an example. So basically, he feels like the opponent has all the options, but I don't have any options, right? Which is probably not true. To give you one example, I often get put in the corner. When I'm in the corner, I feel like my only options jump out. If I mash, dodge, use a reversal, gets beaten every time. All right, yeah, I already know where this question is going. It reminds me, there's a post, like pretty like popular meme post. It's like, third strike, what's the point of living if parry? I don't know. Let me see if I can find it. It's like it was something. It was like an old Reddit post. Yeah, there, I found it. Let me see if I can zoom in. What's the point of attacking if they can just parry? And then, you know, the response is, what's the point of living if we're just all gonna die? And that's kind of the vibes I get from this post. Is like, bro, why would I mash if it's not gonna work? Why would I jump if it's not gonna work, right? It's kind of like the let's go gambling, aw dang it memes that have been going on Twitter. There's no option that catches everything, right? Like, these happen 100% of the time, so I can no longer do them. Like, the thing is, jump. Charlotte jumps really good because it'll beat throw, and it's at a really hard to anti-air angle, and it's fast, right? So if they're throwing you, so your complaint is I get thrown, jump beats throw, right? So to me, this is I'm guessing really terribly, right? This is by no means the only situation, but where the risk assessment always leads to a negative outcome for me, regardless of what I try. Yeah, that's correct. That's the whole reason offense exists. Imagine if you got offense and the risk assessment was positive for the other person, right? Like, you would never run offense. If defensive, it's like against fucking Nier, and when she just launched, where she has an EXDP that would take 60% of your health. You had to not run offense against her a lot of the time, or like be very cognizant of EX counter, because the risk reward is so much skewed in her favor, right? So yeah, that's not an issue. It's always going to lead to a negative outcome, right? Like, the expected value of you being put in the corner is fucking shit, right? You have a couple different options. You have a few different options here, right? One is don't get put. Why are you getting put in the corner in the first place, right? That's a lot easier to mitigate. That's a lot less linear, because there's a lot of different things you can do to not get put in the corner, because the corner fucking sucks in any fighting game that you're going to be in, right? There is an optimal thing to do, right? There is an optimal risk assessment that you can perform that will minimize your expected value, or you minimize the negative outcome. So in Grand Blue, this is the strongest option on paper is delay tech, right? Because it beats throw, sort of beats throw, right? It beats people, and it beats people just blocking, because then your 2L will come out, right? Guard cancel, also an extremely strong option that you don't even mention here, right? You also don't mention delayed cancel. So to me, like, part of the way to reduce your expected value is to do the strong options, which it sounds like you're not doing either of them, right? And you do have to understand that like mash and jumping have a place, but they're designed to beat certain things. And if you're not, if your opponent is just like always, how I say, like let's say they do a meaty into a throw like every time, then none of this stuff is gonna work out, right? Because dodge is not very strong on defense, mash is not very strong on defense unless they're throwing, reversal is not very strong against safe jab, right? So if they're always doing safe jab in the throw, none of your options beat that. So you need more options that'll take care of that, right? So I think it's a combination of a few things. The TLDR is don't get put in the corner. If you're in the corner, do better options. All right, Niji Boy ask, hey, any audiobooks you can recommend? Bonus points if they're included in Spotify Premium. Well, I didn't even know Spotify. Actually, I did know Spotify Premium had audiobooks, but I don't actually like know where to look. So I'll just talk about it generally. But yeah, I've read all these. Funny enough, so these are some that Nuji has read or they're on their list. Air Game of Tennis, Power Habits. I'll give my review of all of them. Because like if you have a list, like bro, you don't need me to recommend you shit, right? So I'm really gonna help you prioritize here. Air Game of Tennis, I think it's goated. There's a reason in sports psychology. This is like almost like the grandfather of sports psychology things. And I think any classic that stands the test of time is usually worth listening to, right? I'm always a big fan of that. Like what's the Napoleon Hill book that everyone cites about money? Napoleon Hill money. Yeah, Think and Grow Rich, right? Like that's a book that's been around for 100 years, but it still stands the test of time. It's still in pop culture because it does really well, right? I mean, like the advice still holds up, and a good book, by the way. But anyways, yeah, I've read all these. Air Game of Tennis is good. It's goated. It's probably not the best resource, but I think it brought a lot of novel ideas onto the scene. Talk about like System 1, System 2. You know, you have the kind of your basically unconscious and conscious, and like how those work. And the better you can understand that, better you can like playing game. A lot of these are like not fighting game related. These are more of like self-improvement, and but I do think like self-improvement kind of helps, because if you're getting your life together with that kind of shit, then like you're probably gonna play better in fighting games. Power Habit, Atomic Habit, these books are both fucking goated. Actually, I think these are two of the most influential books to like how to say, like my personal development in terms of like, you know, being more efficient, making better life choices, etc. These are both goated. Art of War and War Art, I get these confused. What the Sun Tzu one is Art of War, right? I honestly, I mean, again, this is another book that stands the test of time. I read it. It's interesting. It's also really short, so you can't really go wrong, but I don't really remember. Like, I didn't think have that great of a takeaway. I was just like, oh, this is cool. It's worth reading just because it's really short. War of Art, I think I've actually read that. I feel like this is the most niche book here. Oh, wait. I feel like this is the most niche book here, but I have read that. This book's really cool. Like, if I could recommend a book to like content creators, The War of Art would be like definitely one, because it talks about like how to beat mental blocks, how to beat struggles, and you know, trying to come up with new ideas, how to produce content, that kind of shit. War of Art's really good for that. Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, I actually think this book is like really overrated. It's kind of like a lot of self-help stuff that's like very mainstream, but it has like an edgy overtone. There's nothing novel in the subtle art of Not Give Me a Fuck. It's like if you want something that's, I don't know, edgy or a little funny, I've read it. It's probably my least favorite book on this. So Good They Can't Ignore You, a really cool book. I actually subscribe to that philosophy a lot. It's kind of like one of the philosophies I take to content, because I'm like, man, I got no connections. I don't know how the fuck to do this. So like, if I just get good enough, it won't matter, right? That's kind of my logic. And I feel like that's served me pretty well. But like, this is more of like career discovery book, right? If you're trying to figure out like what the fuck to do in life, So Good They Can't Ignore You, I think is a really good book for that. The Will to Keep Winning. This is the Will to Keep Whining. That's just so funny. I actually haven't seen this before, but yeah, shouts to Zato Mains Whining on Twitter. Will to Keep Winning, that's Daigo's book. It's good. It's more of like, it's a lot of autobiography. It's also pretty short too. I think you can't really go wrong. But yeah, it's interesting because like, this is only one, like, how I say, like, the only really one here that's like sports psychology related is Inner Game of Tennis. My recommendation is always, oh, I can't even fucking remember it now. The Art of Learning. I'm a huge fan of that. If you're trying to get good at fighting games, I think The Art of Learning is probably like one of the best books you can read though. Basically talks about like the actual learning process, how to get good very efficiently, and uses really cool real life examples. But unlike most sports psychology books, it's about a single player shit. Like he does chess and he does like taekwondo or some martial art, right? And so like a lot of sports psychology is like how I say it, it's a lot like team-based interaction. Like how do you get to like how's a team work optimally? But nah, like this are like books about like MMA or like boxing. Like those are, I think, where you can find the peak advice for sports psychology. Who's the book again? I always forget his name. Josh Watkins. Yeah, this book's really good. I gotta find the next one. I don't know how to use Discord. I feel like boomer, right? But I don't know how to like reorder these. Okay. How to implement new steps into a game plan. Bye twice, welcome to Discord. I've kind of plateaued on my instinct in fighting games and want to start implementing new ideas and pressure and neutral, but I'm struggling to actually do so. Any tips on how you can make the process easier? So I think the first thing is plateaued on my instinct. That's a really interesting word choice. I don't know what that means. To me, that's like you're just making poor choices. Yeah, I guess you can say like instinct and autopilot, I think, are kind of similar, right? I feel like instinct and autopilot are different, right? So autopilot's like, what do you normally do like when you're not thinking? Instinct's like when you get that knockdown and you're like, I think this guy's gonna mash, right? That's kind of like the instinct I think about. And like being able to tap into that. That's a whole different conversation than like what to implement new steps into a game plan. I think that's kind of what they want. So I don't want to hyperanalyze that, but yeah, plateauing on your instinct, I don't know. I think I have a corny feeling that like the main way to get better instinct is one, you have to kind of train it. So like, you know, a lot of people's first instinct when they play fighting games is to fucking mash. Like the way you get over that is by training and learning, right? So there's definitely like a knowledge component, and there's also like the, how I say, like the more you can access your instinct, the more you can like trust yourself. Maybe it's like confidence is the word I'm looking for. The more confidence you have, like the better you'll be able to tap into your instinct because you'll believe in yourself, right? But I don't think that's what you're asking. But if it is, you're welcome. How to implement new steps in the game plan? It's more of like, what are your steps that you have to implement, right? It's kind of the same thing with instinct. Is like how do you get over not mashing when you first pick up a fighting game? It's you gotta actually learn the basics, right? You gotta learn what to do instead of mashing. And so if you're trying to find new ideas, you have to figure out one, what those new ideas are. The way I would get new ideas in pressure and neutral, copy someone that plays your character and see what they do, see what you don't do, compare, and then start like write those down, and then, you know, keep a list, figure out what the most important ones are, go to the training mode, practice it, and then kind of work your way up, right? Start with casuals, start with people that, I think one of the best ways to implement new shit, play people that are worse than you. Therefore it's like, it's a lot easier to like fuck around, and you can just fuck around trying the new shit, and then you go to rank and, you know, kind of build your way up. Oh my god, this is long. How do you keep the spark to prove alive? That's an interesting question. I just started playing fighting games last year, Street Fighter 6. Game Master, congrats. Played Rising. I've had fun. But now the game that once made me really happy now makes me furious. When I used to laugh at things happening in the game, now I have to take a deep breath and so I don't slam my desk and break something. Okay. Yeah, that sucks. How do you keep the spark to prove alive? I have a few thoughts on this, a few theories. So I think the most common advice you'll get is take a break, right? And the reason is, you know, kind of reset your mental. And if you're getting mad at something, you're just not gonna make progress, right? And I think a lot of people, like, they try to brute force it, and I kind of get the vibe Africa's trying to brute force this, which is like, man, if I just keep playing, eventually, like, I'll get better, which is kind of true, but it's like you're basically practicing in like the worst way, right? Because you're not focused on the game. You have like all these negative emotions that come out. If you're exhausted playing the game, like, you're not gonna be playing at peak. There's a lot of like issues you're gonna be having, like if you're having negative feelings towards the game, right? And it's also gonna make it way harder to grind and therefore very hard to keep the spark to improve alive, right? So I think taking a break, it's conventional advice, it's good advice. That being said, a lot of people are in a situation where they can't take a break. Like, imagine you're a pro player, right? You qualify for Capcom Cup and now you just are angry with the game. Do you take a break and lose out on the ability? I don't know, right? If you're working a career and you start to feel negative, right? You start to not like your job. Do you just take a break and not have any income for the year? I don't think so, right? So, like, yeah, that works here, but you know, for some people it might not work, or if they're like really motivated, it might not be the right thing. But yeah, but for Africa, I think break probably does work, so that's the easiest thing, right? Second thing is, I think the reason this exists, and in general, I think people, in order for people to be happy, like, they have to experience growth in one way or the other, right? And if you get stagnant for too long, like, people get unhappy, and I'm pretty sure that's like scientifically validated somewhere, but don't take my word for it. So like, if you have expectations that like, I'm gonna do really well in something, like for example, like I got master in Street Fighter, so in Tekken I should be God of Destruction, and then you're not God of Destruction, like, because you had your really high expectations. I feel like that's kind of setting you up for failure, right? And so I think part of that's like just managing expectations and like understanding like, hey, this is a new game, I haven't played other new games, like this is gonna take a lot longer than possible. And like the I would say like the less expectation you have, it's almost like it's more freeing in a sense, right? At least to me. I think everyone has their own way of managing this. I'd say the other thing about like not falling into that negativity is find a way to have fun, right? That's why like I'll never force I mean, this is what works for me. It doesn't work for it. Some other people can get around this, but I can't play characters I don't like because I've tried it and it just doesn't work. I have to play characters I like because I have more fun. If I force myself to play a game, or I force myself to like play a character I don't like, I can't do it. I don't know what it is. Maybe if I was like grinding full time and I was like 100% focused and I need the money to compete and like all this other shit, like, yeah, maybe I'd be able to do that. But with like my workload currently and, you know, content and all that other shit and all the games I play, like, that's not a viable strategy for me, right? So to me, the way I circumvent that is I just pick shit I like. So playing feels really natural and improvement feels really natural because of that, right? So yeah, I think you have a few different options. But yeah, I think you also gotta be honest with yourself, like why you feel that way when you play, right? Are you just not having fun with the game? Then you probably shouldn't play the game. Are you just like disappointed in your lack of progress? Well, like make a plan to figure out how to get better. And you're obviously like, if you're disappointed for your lack of progress, you're probably doing something wrong, right? And so figure out what that something wrong is. And the best way to do that is just try new shit. All right. What else we got? Hey, what's up, Xman? I'm a Diamond 2 Aki main, And I thought it was good till I hit Aki Diamond 2. It turns out people are better. I have a hard time keeping up even with labbing. I don't know what this means. Sounds like you hit a wall. Diamond 2 is an interesting wall because usually people get walled at Diamond 1. Diamond 2 means you're on the right track, right? But yeah, having a hard time keeping up with even labbing. I feel like we need more context here. I'm just gonna take a fucking wild guess and guess what's going on. Is that because I feel like X1 probably just recently got Diamond 2, right? General vibe, because you know Aki just got buffed, new patch. Probably need to give it a little bit more time. I'm gonna keep it real. Make sure you actually have the numbers up that will allow you to improve. Hard time even keeping up labbing. Maybe there's just too much to improve upon is the general vibe. If there's too much to improve upon, you gotta prioritize, right? There's certain things with Aki that are like, or any character that are way more critical than others. And so for example, like learning how to beat mash in Diamond, very, very important, right? If you don't have your knockdown setups, if you don't have your poison combos down, for example, even if they're just basic poison combos where it's just drive rush, you know, 2 MP, H whip or some shit. If you don't have those down and you don't have the setups down after that, like you're gonna have a really hard time. Are you anti-airing? I mean, anti-airing is still a big issue in Diamond, right? So to me, it's like you gotta figure out what's important and like don't try to overwhelm yourself. I feel like a lot of people are like, damn, I look at, you know, X top Aki player, my boy Hikaru, and he's doing like 50 different things. Like I can't, how am I supposed to compete? One, you're not gonna be like, he's played the game way more than you, he has way more practice. Like you're not trying to compete with that, you're trying to compete with Diamond 2s. But also like you need to focus on the highest reward things, like, you know, anti-airing, or, you know, making sure you can beat mash, or making sure you're actually rotating the right options, or making sure that you're rotating your defense correct, and figure out like where you're lacking there, and like just focus on 1 or 2 things at a time, because you shouldn't be having a hard time keeping up with lab is something that will always exist. Hikaru is going to be labbing shit a year from now. New tech is going to be keep develop. Lab never goes away, so it's more of you have to prioritize. Cool. So anyways, yeah, that was a fun vid. Like, share, subscribe. If you want to ask questions, please do. I need all the help with content I can get. Join the Discord, links in the description. Anyways, like, share, subscribe. Catch y'all in the next one. Peace.